All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're talking about a machine that was basically born 200 years too early. And the guy, this brilliant, but let's be honest, stubborn visionary who dreamed the whole thing up.
Okay, so look at this thing. It weighs 5 tons. It was unveiled back in 2008, and it's this colossal beast, right? We're talking 8,000 bronze and iron parts stretching 3 meters long. But here's the crazy part. This is not some modern supercomputer. No way. This is basically a ghost from the past, built from designs that are almost 200 years old.
What you're looking at is a recreation, a stunningly precise one, of Charles Babbage's Difference Engine No. 2. A team, led by an expert named Doran Swade, they built this for one single reason. They wanted to prove that this guy, Babbage, who died pretty much unknown, didn't just have some wild dream. He had a real blueprint, a blueprint that would eventually change everything.
So why? Why did Babbage even want to build this thing in the first place? To get that answer and to really get inside the obsession that drove this guy, we got to go back in time, way back, nearly 200 years.
Okay, so here's where it all starts. The year is 1821. Charles Babbage, he's this brilliant 30-year-old astronomer, right? And he has what is possibly the most mind-numbing job imaginable. He has to check and correct these huge mathematical tables. You know, the ones they used for navigating ships.
I mean, just try to imagine a world with no calculators, no spreadsheets, nothing. Back then, everything, science, engineering, finance, it all ran on these massive books of pre-calculated numbers. And because they were all done by hand, by people, they were absolutely full of mistakes.
So one day, after spending hours with his friend, the astronomer John Herschel, just finding error after error after error, Babbage finally just snaps. He exclaims, "I wish to God these calculations had been executed by steam." Now, he didn't literally mean, steam power. It was more about the idea of a machine, something perfect, precise, something that wouldn't make the same stupid mistakes humans do.
And see, Babbage realized the problem wasn't just one thing. It wasn't just bad math. It was a total system failure. You could get an error in the original calculation, sure, but you could also get one when someone copied the results down, or even when the printer was setting the type for the book. His solution had to cover the whole process. One machine that could calculate, typeset, and print with 0 errors.
So, to tackle this entire chain of potential screw-ups, he comes up with his first really big idea, a machine that was literally born out of pure frustration, and he called it the Difference Engine.
The real genius of this thing was how it worked. It could solve these really complex problems by just doing one simple thing over and over again, addition, which, is perfect for a machine made of gears and wheels. So in 1822, he shows off this small working model to the Royal Astronomical Society, and they loved it. The British government was so fascinated they gave him a grant of £1,700 to build the real deal.
But building the dream turned out to be a total nightmare. The problem was 19th century manufacturing just wasn't good enough. They couldn't make the thousands of perfectly identical parts that his design needed. So the whole project just drags on and on for 2 decades. It's burning through money, he's getting into feuds. I mean, he was literally having to invent the tools to make the tools to make his machine.
By the end, the final cost to the government was a staggering £17,000. To give you some perspective, for that kind of money, you could have built 2 brand new warships. And what did they get for it? A project that was officially called a failure. So, Babbage's first big dream? It was dead. Or was it?
You see, even while the Difference Engine project was falling apart, Babbage's mind was already somewhere else. He'd moved on to a much bigger, much more radical idea.
And this is where the story really takes a turn. Because Babbage makes this mental leap that is so profound, it would literally take the world another 100 years to catch up. He stopped thinking about a machine to solve one specific problem and started imagining a machine that could solve any problem you could throw at it. He had just invented the concept of a general-purpose computer, and he called it the Analytical Engine.
Okay, get ready for this, because this is where it gets absolutely wild. Look at the components he designed. They are conceptually identical to a modern computer. He had something called the store to hold numbers. That's our memory, our RAM.
He had the mill to do the math. That's the CPU, the central processing unit. And the most incredible part? He planned to give it instructions using punch cards. He was separating the hardware from the software for the first time in history.
And that is the key difference, right? The difference engine, as brilliant as it was basically a super sophisticated calculator. It did one thing. But the analytical engine, that was something else entirely. It was a universal, programmable computer. You could just give it a new set of punch cards, new instructions, and it could do a totally different job. That single idea is the foundation of literally everything we do with computers today.
But tragically, yeah, you can probably guess what happened. The British government, having already been burned on the first project, was not about to fund this even crazier, more ambitious machine. So the analytical engine never got built. It just remained a collection of thousands of drawings and notes. Babbage died in 1871, having only ever built little pieces of his grand vision. But the story wasn't over.
So, back in 1849, Babbage designed an improved version, the difference engine number 2. But he never even bothered trying to get it built, and so the plans just sat there for almost 150 years. Then, in 1991, for Babbage's 200th birthday, the London Science Museum decided to build it. And here's the kicker. They only used technology and techniques that existed in Babbage's time. And when they turned that crank, it worked. It worked perfectly. It calculated numbers to 31 decimal places, just like he said it would. His engineering, his designs, they were flawless all along.
So his calculator was proven right, vindicated. But his true vision, the analytical engine, the world's first general-purpose computer, that's still just a pile of drawings. There is a project today, it's called Plan 28, and they're trying to digitize and make sense of all his notes. But a physical, working, analytical engine, it's still one of the biggest what-ifs in the history of tech.
And, I think he knew. He knew he'd never see his ultimate dream come to life. In his writings, he basically left this message in a bottle. For us. For the future engineers and programmers who would, 100 years later, build on the very same foundation he laid. Probably without even knowing his name.
Which really just leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? The story of Babbage is this incredible reminder that a vision can be absolutely right, even if the world just isn't ready for it yet. And it makes you wonder, what kind of modern blueprints are out there right now, sitting on a shelf somewhere, dismissed as impossible, just waiting for their time?